You know, everyone, we've asked a lot of questions on this program. Yet there is one question that has gone unanswered up till now, which I find to be somewhat concerning for a Star Trek podcast. That question, of course, being, what makes a good Star Trek podcast host? The answer is, of course, someone who has sat in that chair, making 1,000 decisions every day, making the big calls, knowing that the lives of your crew and your ship are at risk. I'm joking, of course. In fact, I'd like to think that probably my communications officer would make a better podcast host than myself, but here we are. Welcome to Star Trek Stories, everyone. I am your intrepid host, James T. Kirk. And as you might have surmised, this show's normal host is not here. Yes, Jaren is out on vacation, having a break from doing this podcast. I can only imagine how stressful and how taxing doing an endeavor like this must be. And so, a few stardates ago, he sent me a subspace message asking if I would be interested in hosting the podcast, and I responded with, "Who the devil are you?" I, of course, have never heard this podcast before. I am much busier with other things, but as Jaren is apparently a master of space and time, he pulled me from my own timeline to come host this podcast. And so I caught up with the show and listened to all the episodes up till now. And I must say, I find this whole enterprise, no pun intended, to be quite interesting. My entire life, everything I've come to know and believe, to some people out there in the universe is nothing more than a fictional television program. I even had to look up what a television program is. So I went and listened to all the episodes. I went and listened to our episodes. I don't think he gives us quite a fair shake. And then we listened to all these Star Trek The Next Generation episodes. I don't know how I feel about that. A new Enterprise, a new captain? Shocking. And then we listened to some episodes about Deep Space Nine. I don't know what a Deep Space Nine is, but by how Jaren and his co-host Aaron talk about it, it seems to be quite the invigorating place. And now here I am, caught up on my own timeline and the podcast. And so Jaren asked me, in his absence, to bring on a few guests to interview while he was away. And so I thought it would be most fitting to bring on someone very near and dear to my heart. Someone who I have faced death and life with. That person being none other than my science officer, my first officer, and my best friend, Mister Spock. Mr. Spock, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jim. Though I find us being here and not engaging with the space-time conundrums that it presents to be most illogical.
Of course you do, Mr. Spock. Can't you, just for once, just sit down and enjoy something for once?
I believe I would enjoy engaging with the space-time conundrums that being in this out-of-time and universe podcast presents.
Spock, just get in the spirit of the damn thing for once, would you?
Very well, Jim. I will do my best.
Thank you, Mr. Spock, and welcome to the program.
My pleasure, Captain.
You and I first met back at the academy.
Yes, if I recall, we first met when you were a plebe.
I'm not a plebe.
I didn't say you were, Jim.
Sorry. I still have some unresolved trauma from those days.
Yes, Captain.
But I wouldn't say you and I were very good friends at the Academy, would you, Mr. Spock?
I would say not, Captain. While you and I met each other in passing a few times, we did not have that many interactions.
A damn shame, to be sure, Mr. Spock. And then you and I went our own separate ways after the Academy.
Yes, I spent several years as a junior science officer aboard the Congo before coming to the Enterprise. But I believe you were given a few different assignments before coming aboard the Enterprise.
Indeed, Mr. Spock. I spent a few years aboard the USS Republic. I was also an instructor at the Academy, and I spent several years aboard the USS Farragut before coming to the Enterprise.
Indeed.
I find this to be a very interesting point of difference between us, Mr. Spock, especially since we've become good friends. I have jumped around to a few different assignments before coming to the Enterprise, but you, in your Starfleet career, have only had 2 different postings.
That is correct, Jim.
I'm curious, as someone who has jumped around between assignment to assignment, I've left the Academy, I went to a starship, I came back to the Academy, I went back to a starship, and then became captain of a starship. As someone who only ever had 2 postings, don't you find that spending years of your life on one assignment to be, frankly, a little boring, Mr. Spock?
I would say not, Captain. As a science officer, I am kept quite busy and engaged with multiple different endeavors. The location of the science and research bears little effect on the engagement.
To quote you, my good friend, fascinating. You spent several years aboard the Enterprise under the command of Captain Pike before I came onto the scene.
That is correct, Captain.
I've got to ask you, having spent all those years with Captain Pike, and now being first officer aboard my Enterprise, who would you rank to be the better captain?
Well, if we were to go strictly by hairstyle, I would have to go with Captain Christopher Pike.
That's not very funny, Mr. Spock. You know what happened to Christopher Pike.
Captain Pike, despite the tragedy that has befallen him, is currently living an experience and existence that neither you nor I could possibly begin to comprehend. I believe I am allowed a fair bit of levity when discussing the captain, and I believe that he would agree.
Fair enough, Mr. Spock, fair enough. There are rumors going aboard ship that you and Lieutenant Uhura are currently engaged in a clandestine relationship. Is there anything you'd like to say to that point, Mr. Spock?
I find your tone and line of questioning to be most distressing, Captain. Just because you and I are in an environment outside of space and time does not allow you to engage in personal queries that would otherwise be unprofessional.
Unprofessional? You're the one out there seducing subordinates.
Really, Captain, my modesty
does not bear close examination.
If you must know, Jim, Lieutenant Uhura and I have engaged in recreational musical activities that are completely professional in nature.
Musical? You can't play that song and dance with me, Mr. Spock. I know when you've got that wandering Vulcan eye.
I would recommend disengaging from this line of inquiry before we start alighting the curiosity of the shippers of the internet.
Quite true, Mr. Spock, quite true. There's nothing hanky-panky going on between us.
No, Captain. No hanky-panky between us.
You know, Spock, due to the nature of this podcast that we're on, you and I have been granted a very unique opportunity to examine our own 5-year mission in a fictional, episodic format. Now that we've both had the chance to watch our own show, would you have any favorite episodes?
A most illogical question, Captain, but if I were to answer, I would either have to say This Side of Paradise or The Cloudminders.
This Side of Paradise? The Cloudminders? The 2 episodes where you get the girl?
Captain, I do not believe jealousy becomes you.
Jealousy? Is that what you think this is about?
Captain, I remind you once again of the shippers on the internet.
Damn your Vulcan logic, Mr. Spock.
If I may be so bold, Jim, to ask you what your favorite episode was.
My favorite episode? I'd have to say all of them. I am the star of the show, of course.
If I recall the episode of Star Trek the Animated Series, The Slaver Weapon, you are nowhere to be found.
You would bring up the one episode in which I don't appear at all.
Captain, again, jealousy does not become you.
If I didn't know better, Mr. Spock, I'd say you were deliberately pushing my buttons.
A Vulcan does not engage in button pushing, Captain.
To blazes with your Vulcan heritage, Mr. Spock. We both know that you are becoming more human all the time.
I find that remark insulting.
Insulting? Humanity? Give me your hand.
Really, Captain?
Your hand. Now feel that. Human flesh against human flesh. We're the same. We share the same history, the same heritage, the same lives. We're tied together beyond any untying. Man or woman, it makes no difference. We're human. We couldn't escape each other even if we wanted to. That's how you do it, Mr. Spock. By remembering who and what you are, a bit of flesh and blood, afloat in a universe without end. And the only thing that's truly yours is the rest of humanity. That's where our duty lies. Do you understand me?
I must remind you, Captain, that I am only half human.
I'm losing control of the podcast. I'm losing command. I'm alone. Alone. I'm losing command of the podcast. I'm losing command of the podcast. Jim. Thank you. Mr. Spock, I lost myself there for a moment. You provoke strong, intense feelings in me.
As do you, Jim.
Well, Mr. Spock, I think we've about reached the end of our time. Thank you so much for coming on. I would love to get you on the show again in the future.
If I were human, I believe my response to that question would be, go to hell if I were human.
Spock, do you want to know something? Everybody's human.
I will not dignify that with a response, Jim.
Very well. Thank you for being on the podcast, my old friend. Hopefully this whole space and time podcast shenanigan will end shortly. We can go about our merry way aboard the Starship Enterprise.
I would enjoy nothing more, Captain.
Thank you again, Mr. Spock. And thank you all for listening to today's episode of Star Trek Stories. Next week, we will have a new guest on, someone I have not met yet, though apparently I will meet them at some point in the future. We will be having on the captain of the Starship Enterprise in the next generation. Captain Jean-Luc Picard will be on the show. Exciting times for you, no doubt, but I can't help but wonder how he'll measure up to the original. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening. We will see you all next week with more Star Trek Stories and Captain Jean-Luc Picard. We'll see you then.